The good thing about what UNICEF globally and Women Deliver align around is almost all the objectives of the conference align with what and how UNICEF works. Whether it's their first objective on collective action, it's how UNICEF operates across the world. We work with governments, with private sector, with civil society, with youth, with communities, and we create collective action for children. So we align from the first objective to the second one around creating spaces and safe spaces for conversations. We do that for many adolescents and young people across UNICEF offices. And the other interesting thing is accountability is quite central to Women Deliver. And that is a bedrock in UNICEF, whether it's our own accountability as staff in UNICEF or its accountability to the children and communities that we serve. So at so many levels, we align with what Women Deliver is doing. Just some examples to share, in this region, we have the highest burden of HIV globally. Just as an example, we have 4,000 adolescent girls who are infected every week, new infections with HIV. And one of the things that we do in collective action is we work with youth-led organizations and networks to create peer exchanges that help prevent HIV, that destigmatize HIV, that allow peer exchange and learning actually between those who are HIV positive in their communities, and to incredible results actually. We also work with adolescent pregnancies, which is a key problem and challenge in this region. And we have, whether it's in Lesotho or Botswana or in South Africa or Zimbabwe, whenever an adolescent mother comes to a health clinic, she's also offered a link to another adolescent mother who's going through the same experience, and it allows them to cope with the experience. So in many ways, we work with governments in the region to allow adolescent mothers to return to school. And if that's not possible, what alternative education pathways are created? So it is a collective in almost everything that we do in support of women and girls and empowering them. I think some of them I mentioned already. We have a large HIV burden in this region, and that continues to be a major challenge. We are doing great progress and strides, but a lot of work remains to be done. We have a learning crisis in this region and in sub-Saharan Africa at large, actually. Only 1 out of 10 children is able to read a single sentence by the time they are 10 years old. It is a crisis, straight up. But for girls especially, part of the problem is also some of the social and gender discriminatory norms make it harder for girls to go into school and to stay in school. So we try and work to unpack those, to break some of these norms and allow girls to not just get into school, but also stay in school. And in it is a lot of protection. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by climate change in this region. We know that 7 out of 10 households, for instance, girls are responsible to fetch water in this region. And when a drought or a flood hits, they have to walk longer, work harder to bring water into these households. And we also know that access to information and services on sexual and reproductive health is still a challenge in many countries for girls and women in this region. So around their menstrual health, around HIV, and many governments have made great strides and many others have not. I think everything we do is anchored in sustainable solutions. We work for children and with children in their communities, but we work for and in support of governments in every country that we work with. So at national and subnational level, we work with governments to provide and generate evidence, and we work to influence policies, we work to influence strategies across education, health, nutrition, water and sanitation, all the basic services that allow a child to not just survive but thrive, is the motto that we use. So it really is across all sectors that we work with governments, with civil society, as I was saying, with communities, with private sector, towards the system strengthening of all of these sectors. So it helps buffer children and their communities also from shocks in the future. Our region is blessed with a lot in climate change. We see a lot more floods and cyclones, we see a lot more droughts. And being able to build the systems that governments put in place, strengthen them from buffering them in these shocks in the future. Globally, for all gender-based violence, we use a three-pronged strategy, and that is preventing it, it's responding to it, and it's mitigating it. Being at Women Deliver has been an incredible opportunity, an inspiring opportunity, an intergenerational exchange for women and girls that has left us all reinforced and inspired to hold and create spaces for young girls to lead. They know what they want, they know the world they live in, they know their place, and they just need the investment. UNICEF's ask at this conference has been $1 billion by 2025 to go into support of young girls. It is an ask for public finance to broaden its investment in young girls. It is to create more spaces and invest in young girls, and ultimately in also giving them access to these services that support them to have a more equitable life. I think it's action that changes young girls' lives. Less reporting, more action.
We actually recently, just during Women Deliver, launched a UNICEF Adolescent Girls Strategy. And what we saw is despite a lot of investment on working to address the needs of girls, we don't see the change we wanted to see. And this is due to the fact that we have not invested enough in their voice, in their agency, and in their leadership. So how we address that, one way of addressing that is we are intentionally trying to partner more directly with Girls Network, with feminist organizations. But we are also making sure that we are consulting with girls, whatever they are, whoever they are, wherever they are. So we are working, UNICEF, one of the comparative advantages we have is we have a strong presence in the most remote areas, but also in urban city. So girls today, there are 600 million girls, adolescent girls in the world. They're very diverse. They have different wishes, different dreams, but also exposed to different risks. So it's very important for us to talk to all girls, including those that who may have been more marginalized. And actually, we're even more interested in those who, for those who it's more difficult to speak. So for instance, in humanitarian settings, in the crisis that we face in the regions, one of the first programs that UNICEF is implementing is safe spaces for women and girls. So that's a space where we have social workers, and they are working with them. They first work with them on mental health support because they often went through a lot of struggle. And then based on that, they discuss what type of services they might need, but also what they would like to do in their communities, and we try to help them. So we are not trying to set the agenda for them, but really trying to listen to them. And some might actually say, we actually want to help the older people in our communities because there was floodings and they were not able to move because they're too old. Some are actually, we want to be part of the humanitarian response. We saw that in different crises, actually adolescent girls and young women, they want to take action in their community to address the risk that their community is facing. For education, first we try to keep girls in school because this is the best protection mechanism. This is the best way for them not to get married, not to get pregnant. At the same time, we're very aware that there are a number of skills to be adapted to the world of today that are often provided to boys and not girls. So we have programs like we are calling Skills for Girls, where we invest on girls getting access to coding skills, girls that are learning some economic and how to do financial literacy. So we are getting out of the curriculum. What is very important and where we see a result is like when girls are also self-confident. And so there is a number of core competencies that are from critical thinking to coping with stress, where we are also trying to invest more in girls. We also know that some girls are not able to stay in schools, and for them, we trying to identify alternative pathways to education. So they can learn through digital space. So digital literacy is actually critical for girls in nowadays if we want them to access new learning. We have make sure, like for instance, adolescent mothers who are often prevented to work have access to childcare, so they can also access some training and economic empowerment opportunities. I think it's inspiration. I think when you work on gender equality, empowerment of women and girls, it can be tiring. And I think there was a common message, like many of us feel that they always have to push boundaries. And being together, I think it gives strength, it gives hope, and it's also very comforting to see younger girls speaking up and being inspired by older activists.